Let's cook in timber rolls. All right, welcome back into my kitchen. Today what we're going to talk about is knife safety. So over the next couple of demos that I'm going to be showing you guys, I will be assuming that of course you're going to watch this knife safety video and know how to make sure that you go out of the kitchen with all of your limbs intact, no blood. That's the goal, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly teach you guys some knife safety basics, all right? The very first thing though that I'm going to do is introduce you to some knives. Now, if you are terrified of knives in the kitchen, there really isn't a reason why you should be, all right? You can do this, okay? A lot of assumptions regarding knife safety is that if we really want kids to be super safe in the kitchen, we give them dull knives, and it's actually the opposite. With knives, you want the sharpest possible knife in the kitchen that you can get. So if you do happen to have dull knives, please make sure that you get them sharpened. But the reason why is because when we have sharpened knives, they cut through things so much nicer than dull knives, all right? And you're way less prone to have injury with a sharp knife than with a dull knife, okay? So first off, please make sure that you've got the right tools. Also, this is again one of those things that maybe you should have your parents there just to make sure that everything's going good. If you do happen to cut yourself, don't freak out, all right? Those of you guys who have been through my rotations, you guys know that you're gonna elevate your cut above your heart, you're gonna put pressure on it, and then you're gonna clean it and put a Band-Aid on it, okay? If you do happen to get blood on your area, wipe it off. Make sure you wipe it really well with soap and water because blood technically is a hazardous item, and you want to make sure your area is clean. But you're not going to cut yourself because you guys are going to watch these steps and you guys are going to follow these safety guidelines. So I'm going to bring you on in and I'm going to show you some of the knives that I use most commonly in my kitchen. Okay, now most of you guys hopefully who have gone through my rotation recognize this one. This is a chef's knife. So this is probably the most used knife that I have in my kitchen. The other one that I'm going to be using this week for my demos to carry forward is my paring knife. And my paring knife is a huge handy tool and I use it to peel stuff as well as chop softer fruit or veg, okay? And then the last item that is most often used is a bread knife. Now, bread knives have a serrated edge, which makes going through bread-like materials really easy. It goes through quite nice, okay? So these are my three most common used knives. And I'm gonna show you guys how to use them as well as some common cuts that we use when we're in the kitchen, okay? So we have our knives, they're sharp, they're ready to go. Now, the very first thing I always tell you guys, or will tell you, is to handle the handle, okay? Knives have three different parts to them. We have the tip, we have the blade, and we have the handle. And whenever we pick up a knife, we always wanna make sure that we always handle the handle. We're not picking up the knife by the blade, and we're definitely not touching the tip. The only time that we are gonna touch the blade is if I am going to be mincing and I'm gonna put 2 fingers above and I'll show you guys how to do that. Or if I'm scraping off. And again, I'm only gonna go in one direction and I'll show you that for that. But those are the only times we touch the blade of a knife, okay? Or if we're cleaning it, all right? When we have serrated knives, we're never gonna touch the tip or the blade, okay? Usually with serrated knives, again, the goal is just to be able to cut through stuff, okay? So again, I'm handling the handle. If I need to, if I have a knife, I'm gonna be passing it off to someone else. What I'm gonna do is, yes, I can put it down on my countertop and then I can pick it back up. Or what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna turn the handle towards me with the dull side facing towards me and hand it off to someone else, okay? When we're about to wash knives, so say I've used my knife and I'm done with it, you always place your knife beside your sink, okay? Don't place it all over the countertop. You always wanna do it beside your sink and it's always gonna stay there until you're ready to wash your knife, all right? So, I've got my knives, I'm ready to roll. The very first thing I'm gonna cut through though is actually a bun, because this is by far, like baked items like this are by far the ones that I see most people doing wrong, all right? When we cut a bun or cut anything, we are never gonna cut into our hands, okay? So we don't cut into ourselves, all right? That's just a general rule. So if I've got my bun, what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna put it onto my cutting board, and my cutting board is flat and stable, and that's my goal. If, say, I have a cutting board that moves around a lot, what I can do is take a wet cloth, put it underneath, and then it won't move at all right? So with my bun, anytime I have a baked item, I see a lot of this. We are not doing that, okay? If I slip, I keep on going, I can slice open my hand, and I do not want to do that. So instead, what I'm actually gonna do is put my fingers on both sides, and this works for a bagel or an English muffin. And I'm just going to slice through. And again, my knife is gonna do the work. I'm not forcing anything down. My knife is gonna slice through, and I've got it clean cut, okay? So any baked item, that's what we're gonna do. We're always gonna half it like that. And we're gonna make sure that the knife is doing the work. Anytime that we put pressure on our knife, so say it's dull, we always run the risk of it sliding off and actually cutting ourselves, all right? So I'm done with my serrated edge knife. I'm going to put it beside my sink, waiting for the wash, and then I'm good to go. Okay, let's talk about chef's knives and paring knives. So with chef's knives, again, you want to make sure that it's really, really sharp. If we are cutting things up, so say I have like an onion or an apple or especially a pepper, if it's a weird shaped item, the very first thing I'm going to do is always half it. My goal is to create a flat, stable surface that I can cut on, okay? So for my apple, what I'm going to do is, so say I needed to cut this off, I'm actually going to grab my apple, and I do have a bit of a platform here, so I will use it, okay? I'm going to claw my fingers. So whenever we cut, we always claw. The reasons are because the tops of your fingers, the fingertips, are really soft, but your knuckles are really hard, okay? So if we claw and our knife slips, all right, chances are we'll cut maybe a little bit into our knuckles, but we won't chop off our fingertips, which is really good, all right? So again, I'm gonna claw my knuckles, okay? I'm going to slice in, put the tip in first, back in, and again, my knife blade is doing the work, okay? It's not me that's like shoving this down, it's my knife blade, okay? Once I've made this cut, right, this is a good flat stable cut, I'm then gonna continue on and use it on my apple to continue to slice, okay? Because this is a much easier surface to cut on even than this, especially than this, okay? Your goal is to basically create whatever's the easiest surface to slice, okay? So that's with my apple. If I have something like a pepper, okay, so I've already cut this one up, I'd like to dice it further. So say I have a pepper and I'd like to get it, so I'm actually just gonna take the top off, compost that, okay? This is still a bit of a weird shape, right? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to press this side of the pepper down to create a flat, stable surface. If I was to cut like this, I have the chance of it rolling, and it's really hard then to cut, okay? So I've got my flat surface. I'm gonna press down, I'm gonna curve and claw my fingers, and again, tip to back, and I'm just gonna slice along the top to the back. And I'm gonna move my fingers as I go. And there I've got my strips, okay? If I was to do it with an onion, it's the exact same thing. I'm gonna half it first, okay? And then I'm gonna use that halved portion to create a flat, stable surface to cut off. My fingers are clawed and I'm ready to go, okay? So, I think that's about it with the chef's knife. I'll go over different styles of cutting with you guys, but I'm gonna actually move on to my paring knife first, and then I'll come back, all right? So paring knives are really great. They're usually small, sharp knives. They usually can fit into the palm of your hand. They're light, they're easy to use, okay? So when we have a paring knife, we always wanna make sure that, again, it's sharp. We're not going to be dangerous or anything with it, and our tip is always facing to the inside of the countertop. If I was to use this to pare or to peel, what I'm actually going to do is take the item that I'm going to be peeling, okay, have my blade, and then my thumb is going to rest elsewhere, okay? So some people will pare like this. What I find though is when you're starting to pare that you actually want to keep your thumb a little bit backed away. You're just going to get your knife just under the peel, okay? and then you're gonna continue on. And you can peel really, really fast this way once you guys start to practice. And it works really, really well. I'm actually not a huge fan of using peelers or apple peelers. I find that paring is just much faster for me. But again, it's one of those skills that's going to take practice as you go. And yeah, why not practice now? Okay. So I've got my peels and I'm gonna continue to go. And eventually, once you get really good at it, you can try to do all of your peel in one piece. And usually what I'll do for that is I'll try to go around the center and then work my way down. But again, your goal with this is not to take out the meat of the apple, okay? You do wanna make sure that you've got that. You're not getting large chunks of apple off of this, but it does work pretty fast, okay? The other thing with a paring knife is that you can cut off soft fruits. So apple would be a soft fruit, mushrooms is a soft vegetable. But anytime you are cutting anything that's a little bit harder or denser, so peppers, onion, I would recommend a chef's knife instead. So for this, I'm gonna be using it in a crisp, so I might as well. So I'm gonna just slice through again, okay? And I wanna go as close to the core as possible. Instead of coring it, okay? And then if I need to make any, so say I have a bit of the core there, I can again just take this, pare it, and take it out, all right? So that is my paring knife. I'll just take this. Okay, so let's talk about different types of cuts. So I'm gonna teach you guys the three most common. The first one is slicing, and I'll teach you guys how to do that with an apple. The second is dicing, and then the third is mincing. Now, there's lots of different types of cuts, like juliennes and julienning, but these are the most common that you guys will probably see in any of the recipes, okay? So, with slicing, basically what you're gonna do is you are going to core, say, an apple or, you know, peel a pear and then take it into chunks. And then basically what you're doing is you want thin-ish slivers of whatever you're cutting. So again, I've got my hands, I've got my claws going, and I'm slicing, and the knife is doing the work. I am not, okay? And I want my apple slices to be about the same size. That's my goal, okay? Because it'll cook all the same, okay? So you can do this with potato wedges, but again, I would probably use a chef's knife with potatoes, and that's how you get slices, okay? So I'll be using that later. With items like red pepper or onion, oftentimes you will be dicing, okay? So whenever we dice, usually we will slice the item up. Then we will gather it all together. Okay, so I sliced it like this. I'm then gonna turn it, and again, I've got my hands into the claw, and I'm just going to do square pieces, making sure that they're even. Okay, and tip to back is how I go along, all right? And they should all be about the same size when I'm done, okay? When I have items that I would like to further cut up, so I'm gonna do a little bit of mincing on this onion. Just gonna peel back the back layer, okay? I'm gonna start by slicing. So I'm actually gonna go along the lines of the onion. Okay, then I'm going to turn it and I'm going to further dice it, but small pieces. And again, my hands are in a claw shape. Okay, so I want to further mince these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pile them up. I'm going to put my first two fingers on the very top of my blade, and I'm just going to go back and forth in my pile and just make sure that my blade is going all the way through. And again, I want these to be uniform in size. Okay, so if I have some bigger pieces, we're going to make sure that we get those. And my top of my blade, so my tip does not lift from the cutting board. So if you were cutting up garlic, this is what you do. My family is not a huge fan of onions, so this is usually what I do to my onions. okay? And if you do need to get the item off of your blade, you're always gonna go down, okay? And down, never up, okay? If you need to transfer this, you can either scrape it to the edge of your cutting board and then scrape it off, or you can put the dull side on your cutting board and lift up, all right?